Hi and welcome to this bonus episode of the Pac-Man series. I know I said that yesterday's episode would be the last one, but I really wanted to mop up something like an opportunity to talk about objects, which in programming world is two things that are doing exactly the same thing, but you've written the code twice. Why would you write the code twice? Let's write the code once. And the movement for Pac-Man and the movement for the little ghost, I think we can be inspired by object orientation and have that as one piece of code, because then if we chose to introduce the other ghosts, then it would be very, very easy to do. This is not going to be easy though, so I have no idea whether I'm actually going to release this video because I've got half an hour to do this, so let's see whether I can do it. Okay, so we can see in our code for that we did yesterday, we did yesterday and last week, that we've got basically the same pieces of code for the ghost as we do for Pac-Man. There's so many similarities that it's kind of a bit ridiculous having the code twice. Now, when this happens, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we write the code once, because first of all, we end up with less code. Therefore, if there's a problem, we can find it easier. And secondly, it will obviously reduce the time massively. So it's more maintainable code and it's quicker code to write. So what we want to do is we want to link these two things. So what we could do is make the ghost a different direction of Pac-Man, but you can see we've already used the directions. We could make the ghost use a different animation, but actually Clickteam has a better way, and it uses these things called groups, where you could just have two completely unrelated actives and group them together. And I think it's one of these. This is where I pause it because I can't remember where it is. It's in one of these. Is it qualifiers? I think it's qualifiers. And we add that. Now, the problem is that some of these, the groups that it has doesn't cover all basics. So you can see they've got generic, or we can have physical objects. I want to have something, movable. Let's go with that. So we're going to say that Pac-Man, Pac-Man is a movable object, and we're going to come into the ghost and say that they are also a movable object. So everything that can move is a movable object, let's say. And that's probably not what that movable is. I think that movable is that you can click and drag it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. They're just labels. Now, what we have is we have all this data that is that we'd have to create every time we make a new movable object, and that's really not very good. We need some way of storing that data on the object, and we know that we can use alterable values for that. So I want to go through each of these and store them as an alterable value in each of these objects. So I'm going to pause it and do the grunt work. Okay, so I've done that, and so we've got, instead of these counters here, we've got the elements here, and I should probably change these to 13 and 23, because that's where he's going to start. Now you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to copy these all into Pac-Man individually. Well, I think in the recent update, if you hold down Shift, and so you click the first one, hold down Shift and click the second one, and press Control-C, what you can do is you can just copy them in. I think this is most recent, so click New, click on this bit here, and then just Control and V. And it will say, this is going to replace the old ones. You go, yeah, that's fine. And we don't need desired, so we can delete that one. And there we go. And so their start is, 13, 11. Notice that instead of Pac X and Pac Y, it's just current X and current Y, because now this is going to be global to all these types of things. How cool is that? So now we've got their data stored inside the objects themselves, and notice there I've put the desired one last, and the reason for that is that we want to make sure that all the ones we need, all these 6 that we need for each of these objects, are in the same position, and then the one we are going to have just unique for Pac-Man at the end. I think you can call them by name, so it might not be too much of a problem, but I'll probably call them by index. I'll probably say variable object A, but I don't know. It's safer to put them in the same order, isn't it? Okay, now we need to adapt all of this stuff. And so we just go through it line by line and try and adapt it to, instead of Pac-Man, instead of the ghost, we want to just say, right, anyone is in that group. So first of all, we're bringing all of them to the front. So there we are. We've managed to bring them all to the front. So if I run it now, they're all brought to the front. If I get rid of that, I don't know. I think they'll be behind, won't they? No, they're still at the front. Oh, they're behind the dots, though. So if you look, they're behind the dots. And then if we bring that back, we can see that it's applying to all of them, so it should be in front of the dots. Wicked. Phew. Okay, so that's the easy bit. We've got desired direction. I don't know whether, yeah, I'd probably put that straight on Pac-Man himself. So alterable values, set, and this time it's desired direction, and I think the first one's 1, 2, 3, 4. And so just because we're grouping them together doesn't mean we can't have unique abilities for each one, right? So Pac-Man will need to have some unique abilities. Starter frame, we've just positioned them. Don't need to change that for now. Okay, so here we're subtracting 1 from counter for the destinations. Now, this is going to be needed inside the alterable values. And it's going to be destination x1 and destination subtract pack speed from counter. Oh. So subtract pack speed from destination distance, yeah, and do the same thing for y. Okay, so we need to change this, so we're going to replace it for if destination, where are we? Alterable values, compared to alterable values, destination distance is greater than 0, and same with y. And what that's going to do is go through all the ones in the group and see whether it's greater than 0. So theoretically, we can get rid of this one as well. And actually I've got subtract 3, so this causes us a problem. What we can do is we can have another alterable value in each object for speed. And I might have that go next. So we can have each object have its own speed. Oh, hang on, yeah. Move speed. Speed is a protected word. We've already talked about that. So anytime you get an error, it's because the word you're trying to use is protected. And then we can just add speed. Ah! Move speed. How many times have I seen that error come up? Probably quite a few. Okay, and then we can just put that straight in. So we don't need the global value anymore, because we can just store it on each object. Because we might want each ghost to be different speed, you know, who knows. So we can actually remove that. Actually, I might just leave that in just in case. So now we are not going to do it at the pack speed, but we're just going to say, right, alterable value, and we're going to just say the move speed. Okay, so we've got rid of a few lines of code now, 2 lines of code, because this was written twice. So let's see if it makes any difference. And straight away we're going to have problems. And the reason we have problems is because this now has been changed. So this is the point where we do all or nothing, because there's no longer a destination distance X or Y counting down. So that's going to be a problem for us to test the code as we go along. So we've kind of got to dip both feet in this pool of uncertainty. So the next thing is the current X position less than the destination X position? But we're going to have the alterable value current X, and then alterable value destination X, and then we've got the same thing but greater than, isn't it? And then we've got the same things for Y. Feel free to just edit the text when you've got, this is why I name them so simply, like X and Y. It means you can just edit them nice and quick. Okay, now we need to change this to all the group. So I'm just going to move it across. And we need to edit these bits. So destination X will become the alterable value for destination X, and minus the where is it? Destination, this one here. Okay. And I'm just going to pause it so I can go through these. Okay, so I've gone through these. I can just highlight them. I've just changed them to the alterable value equivalents. Now, this next bit is the bit I've kind of been dreading a little bit, because first of all, we're creating a loop. Now, the problem with this loop is it's got parameters here that are saying if Pac-Man specifically has finished his movement, then start this loop. But the problem is there's no way of telling that it was Pac-Man or the ghost that has finished their movement. So this kind of doesn't really work at this point. So what I'm going to try and do is just completely remove this step here and integrate this into each one of these and get rid of the fact that it's on a loop. I don't know whether that will work because we've got destination distance that are being adapted here. But I think there's only one of these that fires, so it should be fine. But we shall see. I mean, you know, I don't necessarily want to worry about these yet. I think these are the weird ones, are they? Yeah, so these are the weird ones. Let's just highlight them. So these are the weird ones that are specific to Pac-Man. So what I want to do is just deactivate them, and we'll probably set Pac-Man's direction. Why have I set move speed? Oh, because yeah, okay, because I changed the. So I'm going to change that to direction for each of these, and I'm just going to skip that step because it's really important that we test as we go along. And I think that if we try and do too much, then we're not going to know where mistakes are, and I'm sure that there are plenty of mistakes here. So we're going to skip all of this stuff, and it's really simple on Clickteam. You just highlight them, click the first cell and the last cell, and then right click and just deactivate all lines. Really simple. And so the first thing we're going to do is remove this line. We're not going to have the fast loop anymore, but put these in still, but with their new equivalents. So it's destination X. So it'll be for the alterable value destination X equals 0, and the same thing but for destination Y. So if both of them equal 0, basically the object, either the Pac-Man or the ghost, has reached their destination. And then we're going to set the Pac X and Pac Y to the destination X and destination Y. Pac X would be current X to the destination X. Now I can Control C and Control V, so I can quickly use the same thing but for Y. And then we can get rid of that. So that's now updated that, which is good. Okay, and we've got to get rid of the fast loop. We're not doing the fast loops anymore. And we're going to put in if both of these are equal to 0. And this is kind of something that I'm not 100% sure whether it will work. I always put the most important ones at the top. So it's really important that destination X and Y are 0. And as I said, the way Clickteam works is it works down the page, right? So it starts at the top and goes down. So it will hit this bit first, which is really important that we update the current X and current Y. So it will do that first, then it will worry about the next move. And you could put this in a group. I'm wondering. So we could have this in a group, which would make sense. So why don't we put this, I think you can Control and Control and X to cut. And then insert group, movement, and then paste it in, Control and V. And that just makes it a bit clearer. So that's something to do. For these quick projects, I try not to worry too much about presentation and making sure the code's really nice. But the beauty of this is, if you're not interested in movement, just double click on it, it gets rid of it. It's great. Okie dokie, so we need to update each of these bits. So we've got the Pac X and Pac Y. Again, I'm just going to pause the video because you don't need to watch me do that. You know exactly what I'm about to do. Okay, so that's all done. So I've converted all of these to the new group movable thing. And I've converted these into the alterable values. So we can get rid of these, hopefully. Now that is all the movement for Pac-Man. So what we want to do is we want to deactivate all of the ghost movement, otherwise that's just gonna get confusing. And so what I'm hoping will happen is that we can move Pac-Man. The ghost will be stationary because we've just deactivated all the code that moved the ghost, but I'm hoping that Pac-Man will be movable. Hope rather than expectation though. I'm not 100% sure this is going to work. Right, so we've got them both up here. And the reason we've got them both up here is there's an issue with their positioning. And we've got to figure out why. Probably I've removed the part of it that put them, select X position. Okay. So it's saying, okay. So I'm going to pause it here. I'm sure this is quite a simple thing. So one of the errors I can see straight away is that I've used compare to general values. And when you use compare to general values, it doesn't know which of the group you're talking about. So what I've done is I've replaced it by comparing the alterable value within the actual object itself. So I've clicked on the thing and said, right, compare to one of the alterable values. However, this still hasn't fixed it, so the hunt continues. So what I normally would do is just start deactivating parts of code. Let's see whether that changes it. Yeah, so it's definitely that part that is causing the problem. So let's activate line at a time, if I can. There we are. Let's see whether that seems to not be a problem. And so let's activate this line. Okay, so that line is pushing them all right to the left. So let's just isolate that line and see whether it's still happens. Yeah, so it's that line there at the moment. So what is the problem? It's because it's comparing the current x with the destination x, but we set them up here to be the same as, so the current x, or the is it destination x? Yeah, destination x is the same as the current x, so that's probably not helping. So we need to say here that we're going to set the alterable value of destination x to current x. Still don't think that's all of it, but that will be some of it. So Control C, Control V allows us just to paste it in, because it's going to be very similar. It's just going to be y this time. Okay, so that should keep them at least in the right position. And let's reactivate these lines. So activate all lines, and let's see where that brings us. Okay, so I still can't move Pac-Man. So when I'm pressing the buttons, it's not moving him at all. So we've got to see why. Well, set direction to 1. I've done on Pac-Man. There we go. So alterable values set, and then it will be direction to 1. So why I've done it on Pac? Oh no, yeah, I've done it on. No, that should be fine. That should be fine, because I don't want to move the ghost. So let's run through it. So press right. It will set direction to 1, and it will say, right, what's happening here? Okay, are these, so is this here? Yeah, that's alright. That's comparing the alterable value. So I'm going to pause it and try and figure this out. It's this sneaky one here. So always 1, always 1. Right, so what I can do is drag this in, and it's the direction. So direction equals 1. There's always a part I forget to update. But you saw the process of how I went through finding it. Every time I sort of came up with an idea, I pressed play again. Sat and had a cup of tea whilst I contemplated my life choices. So if I run the application now, oh, it's still not working. See, sometimes you can find all these problems and not necessarily quite get to a solution. So what I can do is I can, well, I've got to figure out which one Pac-Man is. So Pac-Man, it'd be nice if I named these. So I'm going to call him Pac-Man. Right. So what I can do is I can look into his alterable values, which is really nice actually, just to be able to see what's going on. And we can see that the current X and destination is perfect. That's exactly what we want. We're not moving, so there's a 0. Direction is 0 because we're not moving. The move speed though is 0, which is not correct. So that means he won't move anywhere. So the move speed should be 2, and the desired direction should be 0. Yet again, when I updated that, I didn't update the value. Oh. Right, let's try it now. So alterable values, and I click right. So that's cool. So that's working nicely. Left is working nicely. Up is working nicely. Up and down are working lovely. left is working nice, just not right. This is brilliant. So it means that there's just a simple error in my code somewhere. So you are probably looking at it and going, it's there, it's there. But I'm going to pause it to try and find it. I think I found it straight away. If you look, I've added one to the wrong thing. This is why your variable names should be a bit more distinct. There we go. And so if I run it now, I can, oh wow, look at that. I don't know if you noticed that when I pressed right at the start, it did affect the ghost, which is worrying me slightly, but let's not worry too much about that now. So what we can do now is update all of the code. We've got the commented out piece of code that was just for Pac-Man that we can just say, right, it's just Pac-Man. And this is the beauty of groups, is unlike doing it all to a single object that holds multiple enemies, we can still have these two different objects that hold two completely different enemies, but we can group them together for joint behavior. So let's go to try and update the Pac-Man bit to show that we can still have Pac-Man being unique. So activate all lines. So we only want Pac-Man to be able to eat the thingy-bobs. So we're only going to be doing the Pac-Man alterable values. So it would be the current X and current Y of Pac-Man. And I'm just going to pause it here so I can just update the other bit. So I'm just going to test this part. So I've just updated it to just be the Pac-Man alterable values, and failed miserably because it's on the loop, and we need to get rid of on loop because that loop doesn't exist anymore. Let's try it again without that on loop, and you can see eats the things perfectly. Okay. Now I need to update this. I just deactivated this so I can just try it a line at a time. And all I'm doing here is this is just for Pac-Man because it first of all sets his direction, but also more importantly updates the direction to the desired direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the desired direction here and then convert this to the real direction when applicable. And I'm going to pause it just to do this because you know what I'm doing. I just wanted to show you something. So I'm almost finished with this, but I need to update the direction. And it's the same thing each time. It's just updating the direction to the desired direction. So we don't need these anymore. And what I've done is I've done it once here, but I want to just copy it here. So if I double click this and press copy, so Control and C, go back to the event editor, then all I need to do is click here and press Control V and it will paste it in. Control V, Control V. Pretty straightforward. So that is now hopefully fully converted so that the Pac-Man has the desired direction which gets converted, and we'll see whether it works. Again, expect nothing. It actually works. So now if I press up, Pac-Man will go up. So this is the part where it's like, hang on, didn't he do that before? Yes, he did do that before, but now this is using the new engine that will work for Pac-Man and as many ghosts as we want. We could even put 2-player in and it wouldn't be as much of a challenge. So we now need to figure out how to update the ghost code. And so we just need to go through this and figure out which parts of this have already been sort of updated. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate all these lines again. And I'm just going to delete the ones that we've dealt with. So the start of the frame, we've got the ghost having a random direction, which we haven't really done here. So we're just going to, I might take that bit of code, copy it, and just use the start of the frame here. So the alterable value, let's set the direction to either left or right at random. and so we can get rid of that bit. All of this bit we've already dealt with. This creating this loop we've dealt with, so we can just, I'm just pressing shift and just going to delete all that with the delete key. We've dealt with that, and now parts of this were changed, so it's just a matter of figuring out what parts. So I might leave that for now, because we've got like a section which is trying to work out which direction the ghost is travelling in. Then I think this is all these checks, and I think this is last bit is the bit we already have. So we can get rid of this section here, because this is for this we've already got here. So this is just a duplication of this bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this and Control X to cut it, and I'm going to paste it. Where do I want to paste it? I want to paste it above this bit here, because this is at the end of that code. And then I'm going to go through this and change all of it to the ghost. So I'm going to pause it here because you don't need to watch me do that. And I'm going to change this all so that it, and I've got to be clever here, because actually I don't necessarily want it to be the ghost, because if I add other ghosts, I kind of want them to share the same AI. So what I might do now is add another qualifier to the ghost, and I'm going to say enemies. And instead of doing stuff to that ghost, I'm going to do it to enemies. So anytime I've said, well, I might want the ghost to be in different locations, but setting the direction to random, I might want to do that to enemies. But again, I think the other ghosts start within the box, so I might want to do them individually. But this bit here, the AI of the ghost, I want to just apply it to the enemies group. So I'm going to pause it here, and I'm going to do that. Okay, so there are two main blocks that I've updated with the new enemy thing. But I've come across this issue where we had, similar to what we had before, where we're using a fast loop, and actually there's no way of telling in the fast loop which of these enemy objects we're talking about. Now what I could do is have a unique alterable value to each of the enemy objects, have a global counter somewhere that tracks which one we're talking about, But actually we've got a new feature that was new to, I think, Clickteam 2.5 that has this kind of parent event. And I'm going to give this a go. I haven't used this before, but it should be quite straightforward. So I'm going to just put a dummy one in. I'm just going to say, I don't know, compare to general values, 0 equals 0. And what this has is it's got, if this is true, then run this set of conditions, which is exactly what we need here. So I'm going to use that shift thing again and just push these in here. I think actually you've got to cut them. I think and then highlight this bit here and then paste it. I think should be able to. Ooh, maybe not. Can I paste it in now? Cannot paste events that contain immediate conditions to the child event. Ooh, okay. So I can't directly move that. Okay. So I might need to get rid of the loop. As I said, I have never tried this before. There we are. So I can move them if they're not in a loop. Okay, interesting. And I want this bit here to be a combination of either this or this, right? So I'm going to just move that in. Oh, I want it to be... Can I copy that and paste it in as the... No, I don't think you can. Okay. So we can drag them individually. So, Now I need it or here. I can never remember which one it is. I think it's logical, but I can never remember which one's which. One of them is exactly what I want. The other one isn't. isn't nearly what I want at all. And then I'm going to make that inactive, because I'm going to say, oh, I need to get rid of 0 equals 0 because that's pointless. I'm going to say if this or this happens, and I'm not sure whether I got the right or, but let's fingers crossed, then I want to do all of this stuff. And this is when, I think it's when the Pac-Man's turning right or left, which is great because it will do that instantly, so we can check whether it's right. And we just need to change the direction of the enemy. So set the direction, and I can't remember what it was. What was it? A 4. Okay, 4. So it goes 4, 2, 2, 4. So we're going to have a 2 here and a 2 here. So 4, 2, 2, 4. So we can get rid of those because we've updated that. And then set counter to random. Okay, so let's do that. Copy that, and then that's when it kind of could go either way. Then we need to update these. So I'm going to pause it whilst I update these. Okay, so I've just updated these. The reason Pac-Man's there is because they're comparing their direction from Pac-Man. So if they're above or below Pac-Man, then the direction is going to change. If they're the same height as Pac-Man, it will just be random. Moment of truth. So what we should see is Pac-Man either going right or left and then going down. Let's have a look. Let's see if it does it right. It does. Wow. That is really powerful. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing as we've just done to this part here. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I've updated all of these. Oh, I missed a few. All right, I've actually done it this time. And this is what I love about Clickteam, is you can see straight away if you've missed any, because of the little graphics it has. They're brilliant. Okay, so all I've done here is set the directions the same. It's exactly the same as I've done, but done above, and just updated them, put them into this. Probably someone out there is going to ask, what's the difference between OR, the filtered OR, and the logical OR? I don't know, but I would imagine OR, this one here, means this one or this one. So only one of them, which I think is an XOR in maths. But anyway, logic gates and stuff, ORs, always accept both of them. So if they're both true, it will happen. Now, both of these things can't be true anyway, because the direction is either 2 or 4. It doesn't really matter which one I use, I think. So that's what I think. If it is different, please write in the comments, because I am not an all-knower. I just know in computer programming, if you use the word OR, it does mean one or both of them. Anyway, let's a moment of truth. Hopefully the ghost will chase me around. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's interesting. So when I turned left, it did kind of affect him a little bit there. Oh, he's glitching a little bit. Oh, he's just straight up ignoring some of the walls. Interesting. So it's not quite perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I've missed something. I don't see anything. I'm sure there's probably something I've missed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clone. Make sure you don't duplicate, but clone. And I'm just going to be interested in if I change its color. Let's make it. Oh, don't want to change its eye. That'd be weird. I change him to green, and he's going to be a new enemy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him next to the other one, and I'm going to put him in the same position, and I'm going to make sure that he has the same qualifiers, which I think, yeah, he does by default because he's cloned. And let's see what happens if I have 2 of them. So they're overlapping at the moment, but oh, there we are, they're split. Okay, so at the moment there's an issue because clearly they're following the same path, and so there's something in the code that isn't distinguishing them, and I'm assuming it's this section here is not I'm wondering if they're both 0 at that point, and therefore I need to reference one of these ghosts specifically, and I wonder if there's a way of doing that, so I might just look into it. Okay, so clearly when we're going through this, all of this, and this is one of the issues I have with Clickteam sometimes, is it's understanding the fact that one of the guys, it's whether it's applying to one or all in a group, and I need to change this to explicitly say I want it to apply just to the one that we're talking about in the condition. And the way I'm going to do that is just insert a new event of saying always. So I always want this to happen. And I want to loop through all of the enemies individually. And you can do that by saying count for some reason. I don't know why it's in count, but for each object. That's a for loop that will go through each individual ghost, right? And then we're just going to, instead of doing like a fast loop, and I think I can, I'm going to say new event, and it will probably create a new one above it. But anyway, instead of going into loop, because that's not going to work, that's not where this loop is created. It's in here, and it's under loops. It's called on each object. So on each ghost, and it does it in a new line, but that's fine. We can just copy and paste it across. And we've got to do it for each of the ors. And we're saying, like, specifically, we're talking about this one. So we're starting the loop here, going through it here. And we're just going to add this to each of the events. And we're going to add it to both of these because there's 2 events here. And so that means that this group enemies in all of these will just refer to that one there because that's the one we're looping through. So it takes some getting used to, and there's so many times where I've debugged a game where I thought that it was talking about one specific instance of that group, but actually it's referring to all of them. So hopefully this will work nicely now. And yeah, the green one's still glitchy, but you can see they're moving independently. That one's moving right, that one's moving left, and there's a little bit of glitching going on. And I don't know, it might make it more of a enjoyable game, I don't know. But you can see that they are definitely sort of more individual. If I reset it, they're able to go in their own directions. There's obviously something going on though with them. And this one just chills out for a little bit. And so I'm wondering whether it's having the same issue with all of them. If I've stopped, they seem to stop, and then when I go, they will go again. So there's a link there. So let's have a look through that. I'm going to pause it now and try and do the same thing for these ones. Okay, so I've gone through and I've just done the same thing for the movable objects, and I've just started it as a loop. And so it's saying, right, let's pick one of these ghosts, or one of these movable objects like Pac-Man or the ghosts, and I've just added, right, on that loop, on that loop, on that loop, on that loop. I'm sure there's a easier way of doing it. I suppose I could have that as the parent event, and then put all of these underneath it. That would be quite nice if I could do that. But anyway, let's test it now, and then I can tidy that up in a second. So also what I've done, just to test it, I've put the purple one to the right and then the green one to the left, so that they're always not overlapping. And that's perfect. So they're working absolutely perfectly independently. That's amazing. And I can move and it doesn't affect them. Oh, I'm an invincible Pac-Man. They can't get me. Although actually they can there. Oh no. So yeah, they've stopped glitching, which is good. They started to go through walls, etc. And that's perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this all as I'm going to put this as the kind of parent event, and then put everything under it, just to make it a bit more tidy. Okay, so I've put I shouldn't have always there, don't need that. So I've got the loop just all in one nice, neat and tidy section here, which is actually pretty cool. And so I'm looping through each of these three at this point. Then I'm only looping through the enemies, and I've got them, and this is really cool. So I didn't realise that you can go deeper than just the one child. So you can have the parent, the child, and then the child's child, which is amazing because we need it for this point. And so all of them are very tidy underneath this. I don't know whether you can hide children. I don't think there's like a hide children function. It'd be interesting if there was. Okay, and then this needs to happen at the end. Now, what would be nice is if we can put this into this. Wonder, don't think you can. Don't think you can. Oh, I can't because I'm looping through it. Yeah, anyway. I was trying to have it all as one long thing. I think this has to happen before the end bit because we need the direction, and this calculates the direction of the ghost. So we need it as kind of 3 sections. The first section sorts out Pac-Man and also sorts out the new positions. Second section sorts out the ghost movement, and then the third section sorts out the actual new movement, so where they're going to next. And let's see if it runs. Hopefully it does. Let's check Pac-Man as well. Perfect. And then they just kind of chill there for a second. I don't know why they chill in that spot. I'll tell you what, that's a question for you guys. Why do they chill in this spot or go backwards in this spot? There's something about this spot that they just love to cause mischief. Let's see if I go this way. Oh no. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because that is exactly what I wanted to cover in this kind of bonus Saturday video. I think it's nearly 50 minutes. So really well done if you've made it through this kind of mammoth episode. I was sitting last night and trying to think, well, why am I doing the same thing twice? Whenever I do that with Clickteam or with coding anything, I think to myself, there needs to be an easy way of doing this. And you could see, like, in fact, let's just quickly add another ghost. How easy is this? So right click, and I'm just going to share my screen, clone. So right click, clone, pick a different color. Right, let's do blue. And all we need to do, and I'm just going to move him next to the other 3, is set the direction. You can go right as well, and set the position. If I do it as 9, is that I can't remember how many far up it is. So let's try 8. Oh, so it would be 11 there, 10, 9, 8, 7. Off by 1. Oh, that's interesting. It's not 7 at all. 11. What have I done wrong there? Evidently it's not 7. 5? I think I'm counting. Yeah, we are. Why is that? That's interesting. So that should have worked. Let's just have a look and see. Yeah, it's definitely a different active. Let's see what happens when he goes the other way. Let's get him going right. So if they turn at exactly the same time, even this won't work. Even this won't distinguish between them. Interesting. I wonder if it does. Let's try. I can't put that. Yeah. Let's have a think. It's me being silly. You obviously have to change the current Y and X when you create a new ghost. So almost that simple. So if I run it now, you can see they are all completely independently moving based on where they want to go. That's pretty cool. I'm going to try and figure out why they bounced there. I think that should be easy to fix. So I might just pause it. So we actually add another ghost as well. Why not? Let's clone, and we'll have a red one. Always good to have a red one. I don't know if I changed the color of the other one the other way. I think I did. Should be blue, but yeah, blue both ways. Okay. So this time we're going to have it the same position, but at the start they're going to go the other way. Oops. Because we haven't updated the position, so you need to do the position as well. That should work nicely. There we go. 4 ghosts. Wicked. Right. So we've got 4 ghosts going, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause it and try and investigate why they stop at this bottom bit here. It seems to be like a cool place for them to chill out or bounce back. So let's investigate that. Okay, one thing I've spotted is these 3 here would have fired. I don't know whether this were originally a fast loop that I cancelled the fast loop here. But this is saying if you can't go up, I think, down. If you can't go down, then you have to go up. If you can't go up, you have to go down. And then these should have, well, if both options are available, then we look at where Pac-Man is. Okay, it's that simple. So I've done that for both of these. So these are about left and right. And then if Pac-Man's on the same level, then it's kind of random. It seems to have mopped up some of the problems, but this part here is still an issue. They still seem to really not like this part here. They're not doing it anywhere else now, which is good. And then you can see, because they've all got the same AI, they're all just kind of following each other. So we need to like introduce some elements of randomness. Maybe they do bounce back occasionally, or more often we want them to pick these intersections here and change routes. So there should be a 10% chance that they go and take these options here. But I don't want to go too deep into too far into the rabbit hole. But I've got a working thing now, which is really good. And I think the more you move around, obviously, the more they break up, because they're going to be in different positions. So you can see here, they're going to be in different positions depending on where you are on the map. Oh. And so they'll have different opportunities to come and get you, but I think the map is built a bit like... Oh. But there are certain places you can hide, because, for instance, in the middle section here, they can't ever get there. So I can just kind of chill out in the middle. And there's sections to the side here. So here they can't ever get to that point. So, yeah, this is it now. I'm done with Pac-Man. I've finished. This is it. What are we at? Oh, close to an hour. Wow. Thank you very much for watching. Assuming you have made it through this very, very long extra episode, just to see whether we could increase the scope. Oh wow, they're getting really agitated now. And I'll leave this with you guys. If you want to try and create your own Pac-Man, I've showed you the startings of the project. And yeah, if you wanted to take that on, let me know how it goes in the comments. Otherwise, like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you very much.